Welcome to the InfoWars Nightly News. I'm your host, Jakari Jackson. This is what we have in store for you for this Tuesday, January 29th, 2013 edition.
Tonight on the InfoWars Nightly News, a police chief predicts that guns will be a thing of the past within a generation. Meanwhile, a gun buyback program turns into a full-blown gun show in Seattle. Plus, the father of the Oregon terror suspect says his son was brainwashed by the FBI. All that and more on the InfoWars Nightly News.
Top story headline: Police chief. Within a generation, guns will be taken off the streets. These words said by San Diego Police Chief William Lansdowne, and we can see the quotes right there. These are the quotes said by somebody referencing Chief Lansdowne, who plays an active role in the western region of the International Association of Chiefs of Police. The article goes on to point out that he's a supporter of Senator Dianne Feinstein's proposed assault weapons ban legislation. Now, for everybody, we've talked about this several times on our show, but just to keep in mind, this thing goes way beyond the 100, and I think it's 58 things Feinstein wants to ban. Guns will cease to exist under her new legislation, and you can see the article right there. But it goes way beyond the 158 proposed guns that would just cease to exist off the streets of the United States, and we actually have that list for you. And you can see the list right there. Several of, big, scary type guns, but it goes way beyond what's on that piece of paper right there. This thing bans pump-action shotguns and anything with two, quote, military characteristics. I'm gonna give you this example. As absurd as impractical as this gun would be, it would be banned under the new legislation. Let's say you have a two-shot Derringer with a telescopic stock and a scope attached to it. This thing would characterize as an assault weapon. And I know that gun sounds completely ridiculous and highly impractical, but that would characterize as an assault weapon. It goes way beyond just the 158. So as we keep saying, but I'm a creep. Now, in contrast to our last story, we have our next story. Milwaukee County Sheriff, don't wait for the police, arm yourself. Very wise words. We'll take a look. Milwaukee County Sheriff David A. Clark Jr. has a message for residents in his jurisdiction. You can't rely on him anymore. Arm yourself, similar to what we heard police say in Detroit. Crime is relatively rare in Clark's jurisdiction. In 2010, the Sheriff's Department reported 2 burglaries, 9 robberies, and 0 murders. Even though he lives in such a low-crime area, this police chief has a sense to still tell his citizens to arm themselves. And I like this quote from the mayor. Apparently, Sheriff David Clark is auditioning for the next Dirty Harry movie. And the police chief comes back and says the mayor was beaten nearly to death years back with, I believe it was some type of iron rod. Now, I like this police chief, and I'm glad to see these sheriffs and these police chiefs speaking out. But the only thing I disagree with Sheriff Clark on is at the end of the article, you can see he says that he wants an armed, tactically trained officer in every school and public building. And that's a little too police state-ish for my taste. I don't want somebody asking me for my ID when I walk in the gas station or whatever the case may be. I'm not saying he's for, going that far. But I think overall he has some good ideas, and glad to see people like this Milwaukee County Sheriff standing up for your Second Amendment rights. We'll go on to our next story. Now, this goes in the epic fail category of the night. Backfire. Seattle gun buyback turns into gun show. I'm waiting for this to happen in the city of Austin so I can say, hey, Alex, I need an advance, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to buy everything I can. I'm not going to end up with 50 guns like he has, but, whatever. Anyway, let's take a look. Police stood in awe as gun enthusiasts and collectors waved wads of cash for guns being held by those standing in line for the buyback program. Police officers in Seattle, Washington held their first gun buyback program in 20 years this weekend and soon found that private gun collectors were working the large crowds as little makeshift gun shows. People that had arrived to trade in their weapons for $102 buyback gift cards soon realized that gun collectors were there and able to pay top dollar for collectible firearms. Now, this is what's going to happen. First, they're going to say, hey, you can voluntarily turn in your guns, and then it's going to be like, you have to turn in your guns, and we'll give you this little dinky $200 buyback card. These things are valuable antiques, some of them. I mean, some of them are still fully functioning weapon, but these people are giving away their grandpa's musket he probably fought in some war with, because, I mean, if somebody breaks in your house and steals a musket, he's not going to go on a mass shooting. His little Prozac head won't even know how to load the thing. But let's see. The police chief, John Diaz, said he wasn't pleased that people were selling their guns, and he preferred that they wouldn't sell them. Oh, you can prefer what you'd like to. Now, this past weekend, myself and some other guys from the crew had a chance to go out to the Austin Gun Show, and there were many people there. If anybody, in the local Austin area saw the news, you saw the news people. They got there at the very end of the gun show where there's like 2 people standing outside, and it's like, this is Austin Gun Show, nobody showed up. But you can see there clearly, I didn't take that picture, but I went to the Austin Gun Show. I probably got there about 10 or so a.m. on Saturday. There was a bare minimum 500 people waiting outside to get into this gun show. It was a huge event, and it really wasn't even a big building, but people didn't care. It was cold outside. People said, hey, I want my guns, I want my rights, and they showed up to that gun show to fight for their freedom. So you know it's bad when the police are telling you that you need a gun. And not just saying that we'll come protect you, but you need a gun yourself.
Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the sites, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.